Hello, everybody. Welcome again to another episode of Conversations with Otitoju. I'm excited, privileged to have the great Kathleen Black on the podcast today. She's the founder, the CEO of Kathleen Black Inc. and the coaching company, and author. She's written a couple books now. The one is the Top 1% Life, and another one, Relentless to Rise. I believe the top 1% life, that one sold a lot, right? And the other one you just dropped. Is that correct?
Yeah, Relentless to Rise is brand new. The print release is not quite out yet, but Top 1% Life is out for about a year now.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Welcome to the podcast. I'm excited to have you here.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. So before we get going, how's this whole COVID thing affecting you guys? How has it been? You're out in Toronto, right?
Yeah, we're just east of Toronto, kind of in, city but suburb still, right, of the GTA. But you know what? I mean, Ontario's back in full on stay at home mode as we're recording this. So, I think getting that announcement, I noticed morale went down a little bit, but overall, I mean, I think most people are trying to, be as proactive as possible. But, it's interesting, right? I work with a lot of teams and people have kids at home and, like it's definitely weighing heavy, right, on a lot of people. For me, I'm just more, I kind of joke that I'm a virtual Zoom attendant. Like my whole life is virtual now. Last week, we kind of joked, a client was saying they were hiring somebody and I said, oh, are you hiring a virtual assistant or, somebody in-house? And we all laughed. We're like, everyone's virtual right now. Really, it doesn't matter. So I think it's been a really busy time for me personally. And I think for family and, kids home online and trying to keep the house in order and being home all the time. Like it's been a busy time, but it's still been good. It's had its good aspects for sure.
Oh, yeah. No, that's great. I know even I'm in Regina and we're in lockdown too right now. Kids are homeschooling. I just got my kids set up for their classes while we're recording this. So they can leave me alone for a little bit at least. But you know, I know that you've seen a lot of growth in your business lately, just from following you online and seeing what's happening in your business. But I know that you haven't always, done the coach. You haven't always been a coach, right? Because you coach teams, you coach real estate agents, and things like that, right? So where did your journey start? How did your journey start? How did you end up in the world of entrepreneurship?
Yeah, and it's I think, probably like lots of people listening to this, when you say, when did the journey start? It's like, oh my gosh, like it's such a big question, right? Because I think like a lot of entrepreneurs, our path can be, it can feel really long and it's got a lot of twists and turns. And I think, where we thought we were headed is often not where we end up, right? So, I think it's been a long journey. And when I look back, I think everything led towards entrepreneurship. But at the time, it was a difficult young years and leaving home early. And there was just a lot of kind of pushing to get the opportunities that I really wanted. And that set me up perfectly, right? To be in business, to have to kind of go against odds that aren't fantastic, which for every entrepreneur, regardless of anything, it's not easy building a business. But eventually my path led from a psychology degree into thinking I would work at rape crisis centers. That's what I thought I was going to do coming out of university. I had a psychology and women's studies double major. And so I was really passionate about that work, but I had a young son and like I had my son during university and I came out and had the reality that I was making more money running a dental office managing a dental office part-time during university than I would in a rape crisis center. And I just didn't really have the option to make less. So long story short, I continued to manage dental offices. I met my husband, we got into investment properties and we really hustled. Like it was sweat equity. We worked really hard. They kind of joked we were the no money miracle back when, you could be a bit more, you could lean into risk a bit more at the time, right? With mortgage and financing and things like that. But Eventually that led to me getting my real estate license, which straight up, I always tell people I did not want to do. I had 2 young kids. I was dealing with like tenants and leases and showings and sanding drywall and like, like lugging kids to show units. And I was just going like, I don't need another job. I'm good, and I was the main person at home, cooking and cleaning. And I just kind of felt like, I don't need another hat. I'm good. But my husband at the time was really insistent. Like he said at one point, like, you really need to work for yourself, which I don't know if he meant it kindly or not, but he was right. Doesn't matter. And he kept saying, like, you're analyzing all the houses, like you're frustrated with the realtor, you're micromanaging the realtor. And I did, and finally I did. I got my license and got really busy. Like my first year selling real estate, I sold about 47 houses, but part of the reason I did that was I went into the start of a really messy separation. Like it was, my lawyer actually said it to me because I'm engaged now. So I had a conversation with my lawyer last week. And I said, I think people who haven't been divorced, it's really hard to understand the process. And he goes, you're exactly right. Like for me, it was emotionally and economically devastating. Like it was just like, took everything back that I had worked for. And it took 5 years for anything to be released, what was even left, which wasn't a lot. So it was really, really devastating. So, I'm a brand new realtor, I'm licensed, I've got 2 little kids, and I wasn't the breadwinner. And, my husband is gone. And it's like, what are you going to do? Right? Like, are you going to go back and manage dental offices? You got kids, real estate's 24/7. And I just kind of decided, I'm going to take a chance. I'm going to invest in me and try to build this. And I didn't really have a choice to not do well. Maybe that was part of it. And I was lucky enough to have a bit of tension with the kids and the hours and not having enough time. And I think that got me to be really great at efficiency. So that got me in the industry, which, it was interesting. And we got through that. And then the team I was working with was starting a coaching company. And so I was kind of involved in overviewing like the workbooks and kind of some of the approaches from the start. And 18 months in, the owners were not agreeing. I found out later the company was not in great shape. Coaching companies are kind of like restaurants. Their success rate is not great. Often their profit rate isn't great. A lot of people who say, well, I'm a coach, it's like they might have 1 or 2 clients a week. Like that's not a full-time job, right? So I ended up, 18 months in to become director of coaching and do like a full content overhaul and clear a lot of debt. And then I took over owning half of that company. But over 5 years ago, I sold my half of the shares and I started this company. So, I ran what was the first team specific coaching company in real estate in Canada, like before any of the big names had team coaching. So that was really cool. Like we have a lot of time building top producers into teams. Like I've, what is it? Like over 20,000 hours doing that, right? One-on-one. Wow. So like just me, not our team. So that's what's led me to do what I do now. And now I do what I coached other people to do for years, right? Like I build our platform to help other coaches build their businesses and help our clients, which is pretty cool. So it's a short version of my journey, but it's a cold note. Yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing that. So for people that don't know Kathleen Black coaching, what is Kathleen Black coaching?
Well, we've just overhauled our platforms because organically we were starting to help other entrepreneurs and other business owners. Like we already coach, we're known for real estate, like real estate individual producers or teams, but we also work with mortgage teams, work with insurance, we work with people. Now we have clients who have multiple businesses. So, we're helping them set up and scale that. But we have 3 approaches. So one is Relentless to Rise, supercharging the person. Like we want to power people up. The second is Top 1%, which follows the book, which is going from solopreneur to teampreneur, like how to step into that business owner mindset, like get an administrator, get organized, get some systems, like just have a bit of a foundation under you. And then the place where we is kind of been our niche is the industry icons. That's where like you're scaling, your performance culture driven, like you really, you want that well-oiled machine and you want to support everyone in your team. So that's what we do from a coaching standpoint. It's those 3 levels now.
That's great. So, like I said earlier, we've seen a lot of growth in your business recently here. Well, it's been growing over the last 5 years. Mm-hmm. And you stepped into a male-dominated industry, right? There, before you stepped into it, a lot of the big names are all are all males. So as a female business owner stepping into the good old boys club, how did you break in? How did you become the icon that you are today?
Well, it's a good question. You know what? And I'm going to say a couple things because I think they're important. Like I'm always careful with who's listening. You know, like yesterday I spoke to one of our clients and I told her about a program I signed up for because it was woman run and it was very successful. You know, she was doing 20 million a year before COVID. She had to change, but anyways, but she's a strong, fierce woman. I was like, I've never had a female coach. I've never had a role model of a woman business coach. So like I wanted to model her. And the client said to me, she's like, Kathleen, I know this is weird, but I tell you something. Like a couple of years ago, I researched, you know, who would I want to be like or what I want to do. And she's like, I picked you. I put you on my vision board. And a couple of years ago, I got connected with you for totally different reasons for coaching, hired you for coaching, didn't even realize because I do a new board every year. So then I was going through my boards and I was like, it was you. And I coach with you. And her coach was saying how they do things like, you know, what would Kathleen do? Right. Like when she settled that. And my mind was just blown. I was like what? And I said, you've just encouraged me so much because sometimes we forget, right? Like how important that is and how much easier sometimes it is, right? To see somebody go, I'm not going to be them, but like, I kind of see it's possible. So I think, you know, I went, and there's a reason I'm giving these examples. I don't answer your questions. A couple of years ago, I went to Women of Influence Awards because I'm grateful. I've been nominated. I'm nominated again this year and it's quite an honor, right? And when I go to the gala, when I go to the gala, you know, the last time I cried because the stories and what people were creating was just so beautiful. But then I also listened, you know, and every single woman who got up there said, I wouldn't be able to do this without my partner. You know, I've got a husband at home or I've got somebody doing this. And I sat there listening to it. And again, I felt really deflated because I was like, you know, I haven't had that. Like, I didn't have a nanny. I've had the kids and I kind of felt like, do other people feel like me? Like, do we have to still do it the traditional way, but reversed, right? And there was an event recently with Virginia Mundine, and they were talking about this, going, you know, these big CEOs, like they've got spouses, their spouses have nannies and people making food and housekeepers, and you know, their support people have support people, right?
Yeah.
And I listened to it. I'm like, it's such an important message, and I get it, but I don't want people also to feel like I can't do it because I don't have those things yet, or I can't afford those things yet. Like, you either plant seeds or you hit ceilings. And the honest truth was, you know, many times people have looked at pictures years ago at the first company and been like, you're training to a room of men. Like, didn't you feel weird? And I'm like, let me see the picture. I don't remember that. I was like, I didn't even think about it because business is part of my language, right? And I'm very comfortable. And I feel like I always wanted to be so good that people couldn't ignore me. And if they did ignore me, it was going to cost them money or it was going to cost their people money. And it's not from a place of arrogance. It's a place of like, I'm going to make it so impossible that you're going to make a mistake if you kind of shun me because you don't want a different voice or you don't want a different presence. And honestly, for a long time, like, I haven't been, you know, given the opportunities on the conferences or the boards or those things. I didn't. I built my own event. I built my own stages and we built our own success. And I think it's still now, you know, in real estate, the majority of salespeople are women, but our top thought leaders are still all men, the big international ones. And, you know, I've really noticed it. There is an old boys club, right? And you can go to I can go and speak on multiple platforms and get amazing reviews and results. But end of the day, there's still, we want our person up there, right? Like, okay, this is who we recommend. And it's the same names, but that can't last forever, right? Like, I'm going to keep planting seeds. I don't believe in other people's ceilings. And if I can't play on a existing system, I'll build my own new house, right? So I would, you know, I wouldn't say I've done very well going into the existing system. I think we had to carve something new out. And that's what we're still trying to do, to be honest.
But you know, like you said something there that I think is very interesting, and that is building your own stage, right? If that opportunity is not there, you build your own opportunity, and I think that is really what entrepreneurship is all about, right? Sure. Finding a way to build a platform that is different, trying to find a way to build a platform for yourself, right? Because if we all stood on the same stage, right, we're just one of many. But if you build your own stage, by the time everybody else realizes that you've built your own stage, you're already there, right? Which is amazing.
Well, it's like that, what do you call it? It's like the Viktor Frankl, like, mentality of the slingshot, right? It's kind of like, you know, I saw other people like, oh, they're brand new and they don't have the experience, but they're up there and they're being, and I was like, oh, like I could have I see a lot in real estate. It's like, what about me? Or why aren't they noticing me? And it's like, I could have gone there, but instead it was like this pull back, pull back, pull back. But if I had waited for other people to put me on their stages, I would never have the business I have today. I wouldn't. It was a gift in disguise, because I would have been waiting and reliant, right, on other people's favor or popularity or whatever, right? Like whatever preferences, doesn't matter. And that's good. I can do that in my business. They can do it in theirs, whatever. I'm not knocking them, but I would have never built what I did. So sometimes when we get slammed down, like it's just energy, like it takes some time. As long as you keep building, it just pushes you 10 times forward, right?
Yeah, you just got to keep working. I know when I talk to some of the agents that work with me, and we're talking about referrals and building their business. And sometimes I'll hear, well, my mortgage broker isn't referring me much business anymore, right? And I always say to them, well, your mortgage broker shouldn't be your source of business. Your mortgage broker is not you. You are you. So go build you up, right? So you go out there and you do the work, right? Instead of relying on someone else. So, I mean, it's great to kind of hear your story to see that, you didn't rely on anybody else. You went out and you did your thing and you built it, which is a great way and something great to teach people. You coach a lot of agents, and you have many staff that works with you now, right? And with the growth that we're seeing, it's a testament to your leadership. So I guess for you, what have you learned over the years about leadership and about being a leader, either as the leader of a brokerage, leader of a team, or leader of a company? What have you learned, and I guess what are your takeaways over the last 5 years?
Well, I think, like sometimes it's like, okay, we need help and we need a team. But I think first and foremost, you have to have vision. You have to know who you are, like your strengths and your weaknesses. I have weaknesses, and if I let those rule the show, they'd ruin my business, and they'd ruin a lot of other people's businesses who rely on me, right? And who are mirroring and modeling me. So I think, and just naturally, because I'm a coach, like I don't mean that anything above, like we naturally model and mirror those who we're looking to, right, for resources. So I think, for me, it's like you have to do good work by good means. Like it always starts with that, and having a vision of where you're going, not the evil eye at the competition, or, I want to be like them. It's like there's something in us as leaders that has a vision. Like we're designed to have that, right? So you can only manage today if you don't have a vision, and then you're constantly reactive. You can't get ahead. Leadership requires vision. You cannot lead without it. So first and foremost, to me, it's like the vision of where I'm going and knowing myself. That comes absolutely first, and then governing myself. I'm a big believer in, like, we talk so much about how do I manage other people? How do I get other people to do what I want? Well, like, how much focus are we putting on what we think versus what we say versus what we do and how we're showing up? And I think in our industry, I mean, to me, congruence is everything. Like my character is everything, because I'm not powerful without that. So I focus a lot on congruency, for leaders first. And myself, I invest heavily into it, and I realign as much as I can, like anybody else. That's first. Second is the doing side, right? The efficiency. And I mean, systems are, I have full reverence for people. I work with amazing people. I could never do what I did without them, but I also could never do what I do now, and neither could they without systems and process. It gives us a massive competitive edge versus anybody who's constantly recreating the wheel. I've created hundreds of thousands of wheels in my business, right? So like I can show up and look really polished at something because I've done it hundreds of times, and I left myself a cookie crumb, right? Or a checklist or whatnot. So I think the second part, once you have the vision and you're empowered, is okay, great people, but also great systems combined for the culture, right? And values, really, really aligning that. I think with us, like our highest value is love. And some of our coaches are like, I don't relate to that in business. And I get it. But I'm like, think about like the highest frequency, right? The highest service. So, and whenever we have an obstacle, it's like, if I could serve at the highest level for myself, knowing that that would also be great for other people, I'm always kind of true north, right? Like I'm always okay. And I can say the hard things to say because I think it's more important than just being nice. You know what I mean? So I think it's that. And then finally, the third part to me is, it's the be, do, have, right? Like the third part is having the ability to be powered up, to dream, to have the life you want. Like, I love what I do for business, but I'm 10 times better when I can go and hike for a couple of weeks and come back.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a different person. So I want to help people, be in alignment, right, with who they are, what their dreams are, and truly believe they can create things. Because I think, we can create so much more than we think, but in my experience, there's a lot of residue from growing up, from a difficult industry, from who knows what, right? And if we're not powered up, it kind of just dims our shine and we don't do what we could do. So I think it's that environment, that culture, who we're around.
That's great. I was reading an article about you, I think a couple weeks ago, and in that article, I think it was a little bit about leadership and about work culture. And you talked about integrating mindfulness and spirituality into the work culture.
Mm-hmm.
Can you expand more on that?
Yeah, like we support actively that the shift from, competitive mindset, from ego, from scarcity into a place of collaboration, into a place of consciousness. And I think it's a really important shift that's happening globally, but also in business, where you move from ego mindset, which is fear, right? It's that small mind, it's that little voice that's scared and trying to drive our decisions, into something that's more conscious, which is more abundant. And only when we're in a conscious place can we truly collaborate, in my experience and in my beliefs, right? So I think mindfulness is everything, because if you're coming from a place of consciousness, which for me is connected to spirituality, and if it's not, that's okay, for our religion, whatever it is for people, right? It's that ability to kind of go inside from a place of knowing and understanding, instead of looking outside for, is this good enough? Do people like it? Am I selling enough? Am I a good agent when I'm not selling as much as the person across the hall? Like, you never ever win in those scenarios. You're constantly in a lineup hoping somebody else will pick you and say you're good enough, and that lineup never ends and no one ever gets in. Like, it's completely fake. But if you can go inside and be like, wait, who am I? How much do I want to sell? What do I want my life to look like? And you play by your own rules, you show up differently with your clients. You show up differently with your family, with your community, because you're coming from a place of service and abundance. And I think, it can seem like this big idea, but it changes how we operate on every single level, right? It gives us that ability to just kind of pause and go, wait a minute, like, am I in alignment with myself? Because if I'm not, there's no way I'm connecting with other people, not in an authentic way, right? So with COVID, this has been really important. It's been a big part of the way I've tried to serve myself and others who have, I don't even know how many talks we did last year, like 250, like, it's crazy, right? I had days where I did 5 talks in one day, and I was like, I'm going to lose my voice. But that was a big part of, like, really helping people in the way I was helped with, how do I identify when I'm making decisions out of fear that are not serving me? How do I know when I'm in freeze, right? Where I'm kind of just watching and criticizing everyone else. And how can I train or coach myself to step into a leadership role where I'm looking for opportunities? I'm being realistic, but I'm hyper focused on what I can create, where I can be proactive. I show up in a storm, even if I don't know all the answers. And I think that was so vital. And to me, that comes back to faith, hope, like having a vision of the future so that you can move towards it in the hardest times when people aren't supporting you, but it's necessary, right? So to me, it's everything, really.
Oh, that makes sense. Before we get into your first book, mm-hmm. I always ask everyone that I have on my podcast here. There are many people that listen to my podcast that have that aspiration of getting into entrepreneurship and things like that, and getting into business. If there is a top 3 tips, and I'll call it Kathleen's tips, if there's a top 3 tip that you can give to those people with those type of aspiration that have maybe been scared to do it, or just have doubts in themselves, what would those 3 things be?
Okay. Well, I'd say, again, first, envision it, like, put pen to paper and allow yourself to be creative. Like, when I say envision it, I don't mean a business plan. I don't mean I need to make this much and I need to do this or I can't survive. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about pen to paper, totally creative process where you just let yourself flow. I call it a letter from the future. So, 1 year from now, describe it. Describe where you're at 1 year from now. How has your business grown? What changes have you made? What conversations did you have to have have? You know, what did you have to embody? And I'm really big on that. Like, don't tell me your goals, tell me the future part of you that you're willing to embody. Like, you're willing to live it, breathe it, like just function fully, and give yourself permission to be that person. Because to be successful as an entrepreneur, like, you're going to be tested and tried. And I think that's good. You need that. Because how do you know how strong you are until the world tests you? Most of us had no idea we were as strong as we were, right? So that's a good thing. The world's like, okay, you're serious. Let's see, like, boom, right? And it's like, okay, you're still here. Maybe now we'll give you a chance. But the first thing is that, like, when things get tough, you have to have a compelling, for me, I see everything before I build it, like everything. And sometimes even with events, we're delayed because my team's like, Kathleen, like, get us the agenda. I'm like, I can't, like, it hasn't flowed together yet. And I just like, it's always a feeling and a vibe. So envision it first, make it really compelling. The second one I always say, and I always will, like, as an entrepreneur, a leader, like, you need to be willing and able to stand in the dark. And when I say that, it's like entrepreneurs are able to remind themselves that they can cast their own light. So they can stand in a room where it seems dark and it seems like nothing's going well and people are telling you it's not going to work. And they can see, they have this like insane superpower because they can see 1 year ahead or 2 years ahead, and they're living there. So when everyone else is like, oh, it's not going to work, whatever, they're like, they're embodying it, they're living in it, they're seeing it, and they're making actions based on that. And that gives them immense power in a world where people are not even willing to envision next week and make changes, right? Like, if you can be that committed, the world will part for you at some point. It might be really hard. It might take a long time. It did for me, but eventually, you know, it'll part if you keep showing up. And the third one is, it has to be like efficiency systems. Like, you know, I didn't have help at home. I didn't have that side of it, but as soon as I could, I leveraged. I knew in business, I could not do what I'm great at without other people helping. And I think this is, you know, kind of mixing in the third point, but knowing yourself, like, I would be absolutely not useless, but you know what I mean? Like, I would be nowhere near as able to help people without a team. Like, I'm nothing without my team, and my team, a lot of those people may not want to run a business like me. They don't want to do those pieces of it. And I don't want to do their pieces of it. Like, they're looking at me like, oh my, like, never, I'm not signing up for that. Right. And I'm looking at them, but they have different gifts for me. So I think it's okay. Like, not everybody's designed to be an entrepreneur, you know, like, obviously on a soul level, if people believe that, I must have chosen it for myself, but some people don't like it. They don't like the risk. They don't like the vision. They just don't enjoy it. And if you don't, find an amazing team, give it your all, and win together, because that's the future. Like, the idea of these titans and icons and standalone, that's not where the world's going. Like, own who you are and collaborate, align with amazing, powerful people, and you'll be happier, right? Like, even me, I need to do that. It's just, I so happen to have the vision of it, but that's just what it is, right?
That's amazing. Thank you for that. And you know, you mentioned the letter to your future self. That kind of brings me right into the top 1% life, because you talked about bending reality and how writing a letter to your future self have helped you cast an anchor to the future. So can you talk a little bit more about that? You mentioned you do it every year. You've done it every year for the last 10 years now in your book. Can you expand a little bit more about that process? And also maybe tell us a little bit about what to expect, you know, for people that haven't read the top 1% life yet, what to expect in that book.
Yeah. So, you know, Relentless to Rise is like the individual journey. It's kind of a mix of a memoir and mindset. And, you know, it's deeply personal. It was hard to write. Like, it was really cathartic to write, but hard to write. And I think, you know, the people reading it are kind of reminded that, you know, you can overcome a lot of things. And I mean, I always say, like, those things just happen to me. They're not who I am. And that's very freeing. And I think it's very freeing for a lot of people. Like, my future is created by me and I'm created by me. Like, I'm self-defined. Like, I co-create everything, but you know, like, I envision where I'm at. Top 1% is a little bit different because it still helps with mindset. I had so many people read it who are not in real estate, who are like, this is not a real estate book. Like, this is a mindset book. And this is, you know, power yourself up and expand book. And that helped us to kind of expand our business. But top 1% is going to really help, you know, seeing the power of having the vision, having the bullseye, moving into a more business owner mindset. In real estate, it's so GCI based. And I really think it hurts people. It hurts individual agents. It hurts teams. They're under investing sometimes or over investing sometimes, not even realizing in the business. So I can help people grow and scale by giving them those three mentalities, right? On the field, coaches, leaders on the side of the field, and then owners in the box, just helping them see the business from a different angle. But it all starts with Letter from the Future, which I do talk about a lot in Top 1% Life, because, this last year, how many people are like, I can't make plans. I don't know where the world's going. I can't do this. I don't know where the world's going. Like, there is a group of people right now who are seeing this as an opportunity to redefine and create their future. They know exactly where it's going because they're envisioning it and they're working on it, and all their micro choices are aligning to do exactly what they're envisioning they're going to do. And that is going to give them a massive edge. Right. So Letter from the Future for me is a couple things. Like, it is designed to get people into a flow state. Like, if you believe in a conscious collective, whatever you want, like it allows you to just let go of the analytical and the pressure and that, like, okay, I've got to do this. Like, no, just put it down, put it down and just see what your unconscious wants to say to you. And it's pretty amazing how much your unconscious already knows about where you're going. And maybe if we listen to it a bit more, we could flow where we wanted with ease, instead of trying to be like, no, I want this, and forcing, and it's not happening for us. It's like, what if those dreams were actually your signs? What if they were your directions all along, and all we had to do is make some space for them, right? So I love it for that. I've done it for, 12, 13 years now. My hardest years, I wrote it 2 or 3 times in those years. Anytime I fell off, or I got ahead, or I didn't have an anchor, I'd write a new letter. It was like, I just feel off, like I'm not aligned, and I need to make sure that I am energetically with myself. So I'd write a new letter. The other reason I really love them is that I've used those letters now for, 12, 11. I must have written, I'm lying. I think I've written them for 14 years now, I think.
Wow.
But anyway, because I've used them since I started coaching. So I've had clients write them because they don't realize it, but they're actually showing themselves, right? I'm mirroring it to them, but they're showing themselves their capability to create their own lives. And leaders are constantly building and constantly creating. So if I can work with an individual realtor, for example, and I can have them write a letter and come back the next year and go, 50% of it came true. Like, that's a lot. I didn't think any of it would. Like, this is crazy. And then the next year, like 70% of it came true. By third year, and I've done this with like thousands of people now, by third year, they're like, this is uncanny. Like 80 to 90% of it comes true. And now they have this reverence for the exercise of doing it, but they also see themselves as powerful creators. And that's priceless, right? Like, think about it. Like, I can tell somebody they're a powerful creator for like 5 years. Like, great, Kathleen, like, good, we're not going to drink your Kool-Aid, but have fun. But when they experience it, like they all of a sudden have so much more confidence to take a risk on building something, because every time it's like their certainty goes up and up and up. And all of a sudden they're like, well, yeah, of course I'm building something new and doing something new. And they're not as tentative, right? It's a life changer.
I see another book coming here, or even a TV show coming, called Letter to Your Future Self. Have you actually ever thought about publishing those letters?
You know what? I have, I think, most of them. I wonder if I've lost. I even have the letters when I dreamed about coaching full time and not selling real estate. And I had somebody who was in university at the time say, like, I want to write a paper on you on like transitioning. And so I did this big interview years and years ago. And I remember when years later he called me and he's like, I just got to tell you, like, everything we talked about that seems so out there, like, you've already done all of it. Do you realize that? I'm like, I know, it's crazy, right? But there's a documentary coming out, actually. Doug, M. Douglas Silverstein, he's a director in LA. And last year, before COVID, he reached out and said, like, there's something about your energy I want to talk to you. And I was like, who is this guy? Like, I didn't even, at first was like, I don't even know if this is like, what is this? Somebody creepy online, right? But he's not at all. And we had a conversation. He did a documentary on Angela Laurier, who it's called Weight of Success. And it really challenges like life coaches and stuff like that. And he has filmed like Paul McCartney and Madonna, Beyonce, and all these people. And he's doing this documentary series on rock stars outside of music, like in other industries. So we had this whole conversation. And anyways, we ended up to go through with the project, which is both terrifying and exciting, which is why I knew I had to do it, right? But he does a whole thing about it too. He's like, there's something magical about this piece, right? This letter from the future. So it's in the documentary, which I really like. You know, I hope it encourages people to do it. But you're right. I should find the letters and decide if I have enough of them to publish them as examples. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I see different types of documentaries and publishing that happens, and I think that could be something interesting, right? So people can really get to truly know you and follow your journey, right? Letter to my future self. I think that could be something pretty cool. Now, let's talk about Relentless to Rise. You just released that book, what, about 3 weeks ago now?
Yeah, the e-copy. And then we've been making little tweaks because I learned with Top 1% Life, there were a couple typos which drove me absolutely crazy, but you got to be able to show up imperfectly. It's part of it. But yeah, the ebook is out.
All right. Well, tell us about that book. What was your inspiration to writing that book? And what could readers expect when they read that book?
You know, I think a couple of years ago, I made a commitment to myself to start to just give away all my stories. And I know that sounds kind of weird, but like I'm a speaker, right? Like so on stages and I tell stories. And I realized there was this immense freedom, you know, in just being like, I don't have any secrets, like even my most shameful, hardest things to go through, like I just want to give them all away because I think there's a couple of things. I think I'm more introverted and, you know, the people around me are like, you're really misunderstood. Like people are intimidated by you or they don't know how to approach you. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, how am I intimidating? You know, or my book coach kind of said, like, even when she did my interview, she's like, you know, you wrote this book, Relentless to Rise, but people are watching and being like, really? Like you come across like this Barbie and like, what, like, wasn't life super easy for you and everything got handed to you? I was like, is that what people think? And I guess like we don't know how the world sees us, right? And I think end of the day, it's like I really downplay a lot of the things in my life, like writing my phone is trying to listen to me, which is weird. Writing a lot of the things I went through, and even with the documentary, you know, the director kept saying like, other people around you are really upset about like what you went through in your life. And they're really sad. Like they're doing these interviews and they're crying and they're like, you're not upset. You're not mad. Like, why aren't you enraged? And I kind of said, you know, I guess maybe it's like the letters of the future. Like I was too busy using the energy of what happened to build myself better and get out of it that I never wanted to hang on to that. And if I did, I wouldn't have the life I have now. So to me, I think it's a really important message that like, again, like really hard stuff can happen to us, but we can disassociate and not see it as part of our being. Like I refuse to be one of many, many labels or statistics that the book describes clearly I could be, but I refuse to own that as my identity. I create my identity going forward. And I think we all leaders do. We all decide we can be better, and people can hear that and go, oh, is that fake? You know, you create your identity. It's like, what great leader did not decide to be better? That's creating your identity. And I think that's a pretty powerful thing to do. So if I can bring that message to people, it was worth writing the book, even though it was a really hard and personal book to write. Like it starts when I'm young and, you know, I left home very early. I had a lot of difficulties at home, even before my parents were divorced and after. Like there was definitely quite a journey, and I won't give it all away in the book, but it's deeply personal. I think the people who have read it kind of said they're shocked that I was willing to be so honest. And, you know, there's some people that aren't super happy about the book. I'm not going to lie, you know, there's a little bit of a riff there, but I learned a big lesson, you know, like I tried to make it the stories as light as possible and be like super honoring of everyone, that none of us are who we used to be. Like, I'm not who I used to be, but you can't polish something up enough not to ruffle people who aren't willing to see and face things. And my whole life is about seeing and facing and overcoming things and leaving them behind me. And I believe I want my kids to have a legacy of power and empowerment and love and positivity. And it's my job to clean off all the other crap. So like, I'm not showing up for people who want to hold it and own it and be identified by legacies of like shame and pain and, you know, whatever it is, like, you know, discriminate, anything. Like I'm there for the people who are kind of like, we want to carve a new way. Right. So I think the book is kind of my statement of trying to do that as a person.
Perfect. I can't wait to read it. Now, for people listening to this right now, and maybe they want to buy your book
Yeah.
or find out a little bit more about you, how do they find you?
Yeah, so the book, and we can give the link. So if anybody wants an e-copy, like it's just an ebook of either of them, we can offer links for that. But you can buy a copy of Top 1% Life anywhere bookstores are sold online or on our website, which is ittakesa.team. Ittakesa.team. And there's a whole bunch of other resources there, blogs about personal development and business building, like anything. There's hundreds of them. So there's that. And we love people to follow us on social media, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. I'm not on TikTok. My daughter is. I just that and Snapchat, I just never vibe enough with it to do it. But I love everyone else's TikToks. I just haven't done it yet.
Yeah, no, I love watching it. All
Yeah.
right. So to find you, it takes .team. Is that's
It
where it is?
takes a dot team. So it takes a
It,
team, but it takes a dot team for the
okay,
website
perfect.
URL.
You know what? I'm excited to share this with everybody and for everybody to get a chance to read your books and get a chance to know you a little bit better. I just want to thank you again for jumping on here with me and having a quick conversation about your business, your journey, and just life in general. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you, Tim. It's such a pleasure. I mean, I hope at some of these episodes you have people interview you because I know you do a ton of work for community and servants' heart and servants' leadership. So it's truly my pleasure to have the conversation with you. I love the work you do.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Well, you stay warm. It's snowing out there today in Toronto. So
Yeah.
you stay warm and hopefully we get some good sunshine and warm weather soon and stay safe.
Thanks, Tim.